The whole game of high performance begins with awareness. And so mindfulness meditation is the practice of being more aware. And so if you want to be in the game of high performance, and that can be living whatever version of a great life is for you, then it starts with awareness.
Hey everyone, it's Rosie here. Welcome back to Radio Headspace. Today, I'm talking with performance psychologist Dr. Michael Gervais. Michael works with Olympians, pro athletes, and top executives to help them unlock their full potential. Today, we'll be talking about what it really takes to perform at our highest level, not just in sports or work, but in life. Here's my conversation with Dr. Michael Gervais. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm gonna ask you how you would like me to refer to you, because do you want me to say Michael, Dr. Gervais, Dr. Gervais?
That's sweet. Mike is cool.
So, thank you. Okay. Well, my name's Rosie. You can call me Rosie, and I'm one of the teachers here at Headspace. So to start, I think one of the main things that I found fascinating of your work was obviously the work that you do with some of the top athletes in the world and professionals in high-stake environments. So just to get the audience a little more familiar with who you are and what you do, what sort of drew you to this field of performance psychology, and what started you on this journey?
So when I was a young athlete, my sport of choice was surfing. And in surfing, what ended up taking place for me is I was like in Southern California. I'm careful to say this out loud, but I was a good little surfer. And in practice, not practice, I'm sorry, just like on free surfing, it was good. I was good. And then came competition day. I had some family and some friends and some folks there and judges. And I was like 20% of myself. So as a 16-year-old, I couldn't figure out how to get free. I couldn't figure out how to do the thing that I knew I was capable of doing. And it was one competition. It was probably like 7:30, 8 in the morning, beautiful conditions, glassy, about head high, kind of the dream conditions for a surfer. And in this case, there's only 3 of us out in the water. And this competitor paddled by me, and he was probably like 6 years older than me. So I was in high school and he was a bit older. And he paddled by like this wise person. And he said, "Gervais, I surf with you out here all the time. I don't know what's up, but you got to just stop worrying about all the things that could go wrong." And I thought, how does he know? And he paddled off, left me with that kind of grenade of a thought. And he didn't tell me what to do with my thoughts, but as a 15-year-old kid, I knew that what I was doing wasn't working. And I was over-indexing on what they would think, over-indexing on what would happen if it went wrong, over-indexing. And it was creating this feeling of anxiousness and tension and constriction and lack of trust and low confidence. I didn't know what any of those words were at that point. But I knew there was something getting in my way, which was my own mind. And it set me down this path to understand it wasn't my physical body. I was able to do it physically. It wasn't my technical skills. I could do it technically, but it was my mental skills. And I didn't have the right psychological framework nor the mental skills to manage myself when all of a sudden I felt pressure. So that set me down the path to say, what is this thing? And that's how it started for me, at least.
When you said something so poignant to me just now, that you wanted to get free, that you wanted to feel free. So there's this thing about even the description that you just gave, the constriction or the restraints that many of us put on ourselves. Like, how long did it take you to be able to articulate this sort of restrictiveness?
It was looking back, it was a bit of a light bulb moment. I was 15 years old, but I didn't know what to do with it. I had no clue. I didn't have this, the science of psychology. This was probably, what year was this? Probably 1985. The science of psychology was super taboo. It was for people that had depression or anxiety or bipolar or there was this stigma that I found myself in, that if you're going to attend to your mind or your emotions, that means you're not strong enough to know how to deal with them. And there was this weakness label to the mind. And so I understand why my community, my parents, I understand why they had that thinking. It's unfortunate because a lot of people stayed in a really anxious, depressed, unsettled way for so long because of that taboo. And now the greats, truly the great athletes across the world are saying, yeah, we're done with that.
Just to backtrack a little bit, in the simplest terms possible, how would you define your method of performance psychology?
Well, it's grounded in traditional psychology, but the lens is focused on, instead of studying the disorders and the dysfunctions of the human experience, our unique subject pool is to study how the extraordinaries organize their life from the inside out, how they train their minds to be more present, how they value specific ways of thinking to support them to be their very best. So our unique subgroup that we've studied are the best of the best of the best. And then we take it to the laboratory, like, what do they actually do? And then we bring that out into the wild world and see if it actually works for the rest of us. And what I found is that whether they're, world's best in sport, or an artist or an entrepreneur, or, CEO of a, 200,000 person organization, is that we all want the same basic thing, which is to live a great life. And to live a great life, we must have an understanding of how our inner world works. And it's not, awareness is not enough. Mindfulness and meditation practices, I've been practicing 25 years myself, and it's a beautiful, powerful practice. And it is the practice of becoming more aware. But awareness alone is not enough. We also need skills. And I know I'm speaking to the community here that's about to say, what? That's blasphemy. But it's necessary, but not enough. And so, anyways, that is kind of how this works for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating, and I'm with you. I'm very much, completely drawn into this whole idea of performance and athletes, and I love watching the Olympics. I love watching big games because I just feel like we're witnessing people go into this flow state, right? This all immersive experience. And I really feel like that's exactly what it is, so it's not just the awareness, it's also the skill. And I think it's the marriage between all of these different facets that allow us to live in the moment, right? That allow us to really fully experience life. And I think when we're able to bear witness to that, it does something to us, right? It inspires us. It makes us root for them. It really creates a connection. And I think that's ultimately what we are all looking for.
Yeah, I love how you just put that. And I think the easy mistake when we watch the extraordinaries do something, that there's something that easily is missed, is there's this little narrative that we'll say to ourselves that they're born with gifts. Yeah, true, at some level. But what we're missing is that they fundamentally organize their life. They make a fundamental commitment to invest in living what they think is a great life. It's this fundamental commitment that is available to all of us. And you can make a fundamental commitment to be joyful, to be a great partner, to be your very best in every, room that you enter. Like, you can make that, but most of us don't make a fundamental commitment. And that's what they do. And that fundamental commitment is really difficult. When your entire life is organized around something that really matters to you, and it involves growth, and you're trying to do it in the most accelerated way, it means you got to get up on the edge in that uncomfortable, agitating, irritating, tension-filled state publicly more often than you would ever imagine is required. And that is very hard to do. And the public nature that I'm talking about is in practice. So these athletes, they practice about 4 hours physically every day, and they're doing film or study or some other training, including rehab, the other 3 to 4 hours a day. And in practice, you've got somebody. So I was with the Seattle Seahawks for 9 seasons, and it's 63 alpha competitors, and there's a depth chart. So you might be the starting receiver, let's say. And to get better at your craft, you need to get to the edge to open up new sets of skills. But at the edge, you're not proficient. You're not very good. You're good in your comfort zone. But it's on the edge is where learning takes place. So when you make this fundamental commitment to get to the edge where you're not very good at it, and you're doing it in front of the coaches who decide if you're going to play or not, you do it in front of your teammates who are trying to take your job, you do it in front of media sometimes that are there observing, and they're going to write about what they saw at practice. That's incredible. That is not for the faint of heart. And we see them do something artistic in the craft that matters to them. And then we come back to ourselves and we say, I'm different. They're different. No, they're not. They've just made a fundamental commitment that you too can make for joy, for happiness, for parenting, for fill in the blanks, whatever it is that you want. However, that fundamental commitment is very, very, very challenging to do. It's available to us, but it's very hard to walk that life.
Where do you think that fundamental commitment comes from?
Where does it come from? It's an interesting question because I don't think it usually happens with this lightning bulb moment. I think that there's experiences that take place, and then we begin to kind of stack them together. And then we've got mentors early in our life that are supporting or dismissing these ideas about how we want to invest our time. We've got our neighborhood that supports or dismisses, approves or rejects. We've got wider media. We've got our social groups. So there's like this forest of potential rejection that usually has to get navigated first before you can have that I'm all in. And that all in thing for athletes, let's stay there for a minute, usually happens early in their life, which means the stakes are even higher. And so the reason the stakes are so high is because they forego so many other options that they could explore. And then at age 32 and their body is kind of worn out a bit, what other skills do they have to navigate the remaining 60 years of their life? So this transition is very hard when you chip in early. So where does it come from? Likely comes from the mechanism or the community that you're involved in. And when you get some reinforcement about something, you start to kind of follow that path. And it's not until at some point you make a fully informed decision, this is how I'm going to structure my life, that it becomes honest.
I think this really speaks to this idea of mental strength. So I guess my next question is, how do you guide individuals to build resilience, especially when they're in environments where they're experiencing a setback or they're experiencing some sort of big obstacle in their life?
So the first bit is that we favor resilience. We like this idea that we can bounce back from a hardship or difficult experience. That is the working definition of resilience, that we can get knocked off balance and take a couple steps backwards and say, damn it, put my foot in the ground and I'm going to keep going. Okay, cool. But to express resilience means that you have to be in a hard environment, a hardship. And so if you want to train resilience, it means you need to somehow invite hardship into your life. Who wants that? Honestly, like if you're tired, if you're fatigued, the last thing you want to say to yourself is bring on more hardship because I want to be resilient. That's not how it works. So what do? This research comes out of the science of hardiness. And so there's cleverly researched 3 C's to be more hardy. Control the things that are in your control. love the challenges when you're in them. And the third C is stay committed. Stay committed to your first principles in life, your values, if you will. Stay committed to staying in the challenge, staying committed to the goals, the mission, and the grand purpose you have for your life. Now, that's a stack that I just kind of casually laid out that's actually very thoughtful. So it's that committed approach to life that allows for perseverance, the stick-to-itness to deal with hard things. It's the loving up the challenge. If you frame a difficult moment as like, man, why can't I get a break? Another one. Are you kidding me? Like, man, this life is so hard. If you frame it that way, you will experience it that way. And if you frame it, I don't know, orthogonally exactly the opposite, like, look, challenges is what make me. I come alive during high stress environments. Bring it. Let's go, because I'm built to do something radical in my life. Okay. So the framing of that challenge is really important. And then, well, what do I do in those moments? Express your sense of mastery of the things that are ultimately under your control. Your thoughts, your attitude, your effort. Those are things that are 100% under your control. And if we just kind of pause and said, like, how do you control your thoughts? Well, that's where all of the front loading of the internal psychological based work pays dividends. What do I mean by front loading? In sport, we front load physical and technical and mental training. We get in the weight gym, we, work out on the field or whatever the pitch is to practice being proficient so that when there's real kind of game on intensity moments, we've got some skills. And that goes mentally, technically, and physically. We front load our training so that we can express ourselves artistically. If you're new to how your thoughts work in a stressful environment, I mean, good luck. That's unfortunate, and you can do it much easier in a calm environment. And so I get really animated about this because resilience and hardiness are really interesting, but they require some sort of stressors to make it true.
Yeah, but it's so interesting what you're saying, Mike, is that the idea of resilience too feels almost, in the way that you described it or the way that you framed it or meta-framed it, it feels a bit stagnant almost. Like, oh, I'm resilient. I can deal with, I can bounce back from this. But then it's just going to keep me in this spinning plate of stagnation. It's like I can deal with rejection just fine, right? It's like I've been told no, I'm a writer, I've had my work critiqued, I've been denied, by publishers, et cetera, I'm resilient. But what you're talking about now is sort of this experience of reframing it to be not necessarily, I understand the flexibility aspect of it, but the agility is me being able to move past it in a way where it's like, yeah, okay, so I got rejected. Like, let's keep moving forward. It's the moving forward. Now, okay, Rosie, cool. Let's stay with the writing analogy here. So we're talking about moving forward, is that we need to have some sort of North Star. Like, what is our purpose? And I'm going to use two bold words for a moment here: purpose and vision. So vision is like this compelling future that I see, I imagine, and it is so compelling and beautiful and electric to me that I want to work towards that future state. And it could be anything that your imagination can see and feel. Okay. Purpose is the deep why that you're here. So what is the purpose of writing? Why are you compelled to write? Is it so that you look smart? Is it so that you can make a lot of money? Is it so that you can get a TV deal? What is the purpose? You can have whatever you want as a purpose. What are you doing with this fleeting amount of time that you have on this spinning rock in this body with this made up language? What are you doing? And it feels overwhelming to address that. When you do that deep work,
And you do not have to get a face tattoo or a neck tattoo of like, this is my purpose. If you wanted to, fine, no problem. We can, but this is meant to be editable. Okay. So that laugh is funny. You didn't know I was going to go there, huh? So this idea to use your imagination to see a compelling future that is so brilliant, so beautiful, you're like, yeah, I want to be part of making that come true. And your purpose is so rock solid that you say, this is how I'm going to spend my time. I am not going to play to the acceptance or rejections of other people. And when you do that, when you make those fundamental commitments, you must turn inward. You must turn to work on mastering how your thoughts and emotions work.
Yeah, I thank you for that and for putting that together in a way that I think most people will be able to understand and feel doable. So for your work, the role of mindfulness feels like it's been also the cornerstone of how you operate in this system of performance psychology. How would you say that mindfulness can aid the people that are listening to this podcast and the sort of benefits that you've seen with working with high achieving peak performance athletes in your field?
The whole game of high performance begins with awareness. And so mindfulness meditation is the practice of being more aware. And so without awareness of how your thoughts, emotions work, you're really not yet in the game. And so if you want to be in the game of high performance, and that can be living whatever version of a great life is for you, then it starts with awareness. And again, there's 3 practices. Meditation is one practice, conversations with people of wisdom to build more awareness, and some sort of writing mechanism. And so it's the beginning. It's the starting place.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today here on Radio Headspace. We're so grateful for you and for the work that you do. Where can our listeners go to connect with you or get more information?
Rosie, thank you for investing in building a community and giving me the space to be part of it. I really appreciate, and I'm grateful for that. And, our website is a fun place to go, findingmastery.com. You can find our podcast there, which is called Finding Mastery. And we've got a whole set of resources that I think people might be interested in there as well. And, if social media is always fun, and it's at Michael Gervais and all of the handles that you might be interested in. So again, thank you so much, Rosie.
Thank you. We'll have all of that in the show notes of this episode. Thank you all for listening. And thank you again, Mike, for being with us.
My pleasure. Okay. Got to jump. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.